I'm Gossamer. I've been tattooing for about almost 4 years now by hand. So hand poking is essentially the process of tattooing without a machine. So all you have is your hand and the needle, and then your other hand that's free for stretching. I personally like hand poking because I'm interested in the process. I think it's a lot closer to what my ancestors did, and I love the process of tattooing as getting closer to my Filipino and African ancestors. I think it's a lot more control of every mark you make, and it's just a different process. People call hand poke a lot of different things: stick and poke, machine-free, non-electric tattooing. It's all the same thing. It's just different ways of trying to describe the process that doesn't involve machinery that is electronic or motorized. You do want to research and understand what kind of tattoo you want to get. There are different kinds of tattoo artists that still practice in the old ways. Do respect the traditional terminology that other cultures are using to practice, such as tabori in Japan. It's called tabori, so call it that. Or if you're getting a hand-tapped piece with the uhi and such, that's called hand-tapped. But if you're doing it specifically by hand with just a needle in your hand, you could call it any number of things, from hand-poked, stick and poke, non-electric. There's a lot of different terms. One of the things that makes hand-poke tattoos unique is that the sensation is more so one at a time. So you're getting a rhythmic sensation. It's still painful just like a machine tattoo, but it's definitely in a slower and more meditative pace. When you're getting a machine tattoo, you have either a buzzing or vibrating sensation, along with lines being drawn, so it's more of each drawn moment that you're feeling the pain instead of one poke at a time, which is more so like acupuncture. Do understand that the experiences are different, but you will still feel a certain amount of pain for both. Don't assume that a hand poke tattoo is gonna take way longer than a machine tattoo. It's not always the case depending upon who you're going to. Don't expect that hand poke tattoos are less serious and less damaging to the skin. You can still hurt someone just as much doing a hand poke tattoo as you can with a machine. If you're learning how to hand poke, do be sure that you learn bloodborne pathogen and proper safety techniques. It's not something you can skip, regardless if you're doing hand poke or machine. Do not tattoo yourself or another person on a surface that's porous. So don't tattoo on a couch, a bed, anything like that. Make sure that it's covered in plastic. Absolutely wear gloves and sterilize whatever part of the body that you're going to be tattooing, as well as the area you're tattooing, even if you're tattooing yourself. Do make sure you do your research and reach out to different tattoo artists you're interested in. Always be sure to ask about healed photos of work from any artist you are interested in working with. Be sure to try and find an artist who shows a great variety of skin tones in their portfolio. Don't expect every artist to be an expert in every type of tattoo practice. Do take the healing process seriously and be sure to keep your tattoo clean and dry and free from tight clothing. Hand poke tattoos typically heal faster than machine tattoos. The reason being is that there's a little bit less trauma to the skin, as in you're poking instead of drawing lines and ripping the skin open. My aftercare is a little bit different from a machine tattoo. I usually bandage your tattoo with Sanoderm or some kind of wrapped bandage. Sometimes if it's large, we'll just use plastic wrap and tape. Be sure to keep this on for at least a couple hours after your tattoo, and then rinse it off with soap and water in the shower or in your sink with clean hands. Let your tattoo dry in the air, and then be sure to keep it away from tight clothing and rubbing up against things. And after that, just be sure to keep it dry and let it scab over, and it should be good in a couple of weeks. Don't use a sewing needle and India ink. Do get professional tattoo needles, some of which you can get for pretty cheap on Amazon if you're starting. I usually use round liner needles for both lining and coloring. Regardless if you're lining, shading, filling, whatever you want to call it, try not to go over the same spot more than 3 times. The ink will get too filled, you have a higher chance of blowing out when you do that. If you feel the need to have a mentorship, I feel like the most important thing you can learn is proper stretching techniques and the best ways of cleaning practices. If you decide not to go for a mentorship, get tattooed by as many people as you can and ask questions to ensure that you have lots of different perspectives. There's many different ways to get to the same end result. So do be open-minded and ask questions. I do have a lot of tattoo information, such as the needles I use, information about ink, tattooing on darker skin tones on my Instagram highlights. If you are interested in learning, feel free to head there. Other than that, you can always feel free to try and ask questions. If you're still curious about tattooing by hand or hand poke tattoos, be sure to do your research, find lots of artists who are doing work that you're interested in, get tattooed as much as you can, and be sure, again, to have proper cleaning techniques.